NFL free agency is just around the corner, and Pro Football Network has put together their top 5 free agents for the 2022 NFL free agency period. I'm Cody Rourke of Pro Football Network, taking a look now at the top of the list here in Pro Football Network's top 5 NFL free agents here for this upcoming free agency period. We take a look at Green Bay Packers wide receiver Davante Adams. He comes in at the top here, and it's no secret why. He's one of the NFL's most premier targets at the wide receiver position. His production as well since 2018. 93.2 yards per game on 7.6 receptions per game as well. That right there is an impressive feat in and of itself, especially when you compare that he's Aaron Rodgers' favorite target to go to, the most reliable target as well. But then that's not the only reason why he is going to be the top free agent here. When you look at his ability to create separation as a route runner, it doesn't matter what type of alignment or coverage defensive backs have against him. He always finds ways to manipulate and get DBs to commit their hips, and he gets them with the opposite move. And that's how he creates separation, not necessarily with speed, but by football smarts and understanding how to sit against zone coverage, how to beat man coverage. The Baltimore Ravens even tried to double cover him this past season. It didn't quite work out as he went off in that game from a receiving standpoint, but he's also one of the Green Bay Packers franchise tag candidates coming into this upcoming offseason. Will they place the franchise tag on him as they work to negotiate a long-term deal? His estimated market value is on a 5-year, $129.3 million deal, according to our good friends over there at SpotTrack. Will, in fact, the Green Bay Packers offer him that to stay long-term in Green Bay? Moving on now to number 2, it's another wide receiver here, and it's Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receiver Chris Godwin. Now, unfortunately for him, he suffered an ACL injury late in December towards the end of the season that many people are wondering, will this impact his free agency status, and does it maybe make a little bit more sense he might return to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Right now, all of that is in question with the advancement in medical technology, as we've seen with Cam Akers and his Achilles in Los Angeles. We can't take that same approach here with Chris Godwin. However, his talent and his production speaks for itself. Now, despite that, his estimated market value is on a 5-year, $91 million deal, according to SpotTrack, and he's one of the NFL's best wide receivers and most versatile as well. He plays primarily in the slot in Tampa Bay, but he could play on the inside. He could play on the outside. You can do a multitude of different things with him that maybe you couldn't get away with some other wide receiving targets that are going to be out there on the free agency market. He is one of those guys to keep an eye on here. And look, are the Bucs still in the cards here? No Tom Brady. Chris Godwin, that was one of his primary targets, and Godwin was one of the key cogs of that Buccaneers offense and how they ran. They did struggle a little bit without him being in the mix. Will he come back to Tampa Bay? That's a big question, but he is set to become a free agent here in the 2022 NFL free agency period. But what about the defensive side of the ball? Are we neglecting that in our top picks here at Pro Football Network for free agency? No, we're not, because we're coming in here with Jesse Bates, safety for the Cincinnati Bengals. He comes in at number 3 on Pro Football Network's top 5 NFL players in free agency coming into this upcoming offseason, which is just about several weeks away. He's one of the NFL's most versatile safeties. He can play really well in the middle of the field as a single high safety. When you rotate out of a 2 high safety look, he can drop into the box and play against the run. He can play the crossing patterns when they play whole coverage. He is very versatile in that, but he's also one of the NFL's most aggressive safeties. He loves to disguise his coverage looks a little bit. He likes to take chances. He likes to gamble, and sometimes it comes back to bite him in the tail, but he's very productive from the standpoint, and he had a very good NFL postseason run here with the Cincinnati Bengals. Will they bring him back? Now, one other thing too, his estimated market value is a 5-year, $72.4 million deal. Is this something that Cincinnati needs to address, especially considering that what we saw in the Super Bowl, you know what the Bengals need help with? They need help with the offensive line, but more importantly, they need to secure one of their key defensive players for the future. Coming in at number 4 on Pro Football Network's top 5 NFL free agents in the NFL free agency period coming up here in March, we take a look at New England Patriots cornerback J.C. Jackson. We talk about defensive players and emerging superstars. J.C. Jackson is exactly this. Let's talk about his last 2 seasons in the National Football League. He's amassed over 17 interceptions, 37 pass breakups, and a 52.6 completion percentage rate when targeted in coverage. That is highly efficient football, especially for a Bill Belichick style of defense, where we saw them part ways with Stephon Gilmore because they knew they had something special in J.C. Jackson, and they knew that back in 2019 when he came onto the scene in his second year as an undrafted rookie free agent out of Maryland. One of the things we saw from him, 5 interceptions and 10 pass deflections. You could see the special traits that he had from the very onset that he stepped onto the football field, and for the New England Patriots, they have a dilemma. Do they make him one of the highest paid defensive backs in NFL history, or do they risk letting him go elsewhere and getting paid by another team? That is a dilemma that the New England Patriots will be facing, but the estimated market value here for J.C. Jackson is in the 5-year, and we're talking radio dial numbers here, $104.7 million estimated market value according to Spot Track right there. That type of production, what you see from J.C. Jackson, it's definitely something NFL teams, if they're in need of a premier cornerback, he's the guy to go to. And coming in at number 5 to round out our top 5 NFL free agents, courtesy of Pro Football Network, we take a look at Kansas City Chiefs safety Tyron Matthews. Now, when you look at the Kansas City Chiefs offseason and a lot of the free agents that they have, there's no bigger priority, more than likely than outside of Orlando Brown Jr., than Tyron Matthews on the defensive side of the ball. Ever since coming to Kansas City, he has transformed the culture of that defense. He has been Steve Spagnuolo's Swiss Army knife, and he can offer any NFL team, including the Kansas City Chiefs, multifaceted versatility. We're talking about he can line up in the single high part of the field, the middle of the field in coverage. He can cover inside the slot. He can cover on the outside against tight ends or running backs or other receivers if you need him to, and you can blitz him as well from the nickel position. And not to mention, he's a great mentor. He's a great leader. He's done wonders here for guys like Juan Thornhill in that locker room in Kansas City, and he is very valued by the Chiefs. However, is he valued enough for them to give him a contract deal? His estimated market value is in a 3-year, $46.2 million range here, and obviously you can approach Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill if you're the Chiefs and say, hey, we want to bring this guy back. Can we restructure your contract a little bit to create some more cap space? Tyron Matthews, very deserving of a contract extension in Kansas City. But if they don't give that to him, some other team will. And for the full recap of all the top free agents, courtesy of Pro Football Network, please head over to ProFootballNetwork.com right now to see the top list, the top rankings of all the top free agents here in the NFL free agency period for 2022. And stay tuned here for Free Agency Frenzy, Pro Football Network.